Hare Krishna. Glories to Srila Prabhupada. Read another chapter of the Advaita Prakasha. Go to chapter 6. The pastimes of Shri Advaita, one of the 5 personalities in the Godhead of the incarnation of Lord Chaitanya 500 years ago. It's Lord Advaita. And when we see the different pictures and paintings depicting the Godhead, a lot of times we see Lord Advaita's one of the older people, and he has big long beard and white hair. But these pastimes are when he's a youth. And it's recounted by his disciple, Ishana Nagara. And Ishana has described his birth and his family raising him as a child, his mother and father, and so it's taking up through his life, the life of Shri Advaita Prabhu. So evidently Madhavinda Puri was his spiritual master, and the Lord acts like a human being when he manifests his pastimes. He's certainly not an ordinary human being, but he acts like a human being. So he has a mother and a father, and of course they're not ordinary living entities. They're highly qualified because of their devotion, pure devotion, to relate to the Lord as their son. And he also takes a spiritual master. So Madhavinda Puri is his spiritual. He's taken Madhavinda Puri as a spiritual master. Madhavinda Puri is a very unusual devotee because he was one of the first ones to manifest what's called a conjugal mood of love for the Lord. And up to that time, that mood was not manifest anywhere, ever. Well, when Krishna appeared 5,000 years ago, it was manifest. But Madhavinda Puri is the first one in modern times to manifest that mood, a spiritual master to manifest that mood. And he had disciples. One of his disciples was Shri Advaita, and another of his disciples was Ishwar Puri. And Ishwar Puri acted as the spiritual master of Lord Chaitanya when Chaitanya Mahaprabhu appeared years later. So Advaita and Ishwar Puri are god brothers. They have the same spiritual teacher. And so we read about the loving and intimate dealings between Ishwar Puri and, Madhavinda Puri and Advaita Prabhu in the last chapter, chapter 5. So now this is chapter 6 in the life of and pastimes of Advaita Acharya. Fix the screen here. Alright. Okay, here we go. All glories to Sri Chaitanya. All glories to Sitanath. All glories to Nityananda along with all the devotees. Now listen as I give the wonderful description concerning how the Lord became known by the name Advaita. One Brahmin, who was known as Digvijay, had defeated in debate the leading scholars of many provinces before finally arriving in Shantipur. When the Brahmin heard that Advaita Prabhu was known as Veda Panchana, he joyfully approached him. Advaita Prabhu was sitting on a yogasana near the Tulsi platform and softly chanting the Sri Gopal mantra. At that time, the Digvijaya arrived there before the Lord and recited a poem in glorification of Tulsi. Pushkar Prabhasa Kurukshetra and all other tirthas, Yamuna, Ganga and all other holy rivers, Brahma, Shiva, Vishnu and all other demigods all reside on the leaf of Tulsi. By seeing Tulsi, one's sins are subdued. By touching Tulsi, one's body is purified. By glorifying Tulsi, one's diseases are destroyed. By watering Tulsi, one overcomes death. By sowing Tulsi, one attains Krishna's association. By offering Tulsi to Krishna, one achieves liberation in this life. I offer my obeisances at the feet of Tulsi Devi, without whom Lord Vishnu does not eat. In this way, the Brahmin quoted various scriptures to describe the glories of Tulsi. When the Brahmin next began describing the glories of Bhagirati, Advaita Prabhu opened his lotus eyes. The Digvijaya said, "The glories of the Ganges are boundless. She emanates from the lotus feet of Lord Vishnu, therefore her name is Vishnupadi. She who sports in the matted locks of Lord Shiva, who is worshipped with many offerings by Lord Brahma, and who delivers the demigods headed by Indra. That Mandakini, Ganga, became the jewel necklace of the earth. Knowing the essence of Ganga's glories by meditation, Janu Muni drank the Ganges on the pretext of performing Achman. Later, out of consideration for people's welfare, he let the Ganges pass out from his knee." Ganga is a devotee of Vishnu in the form of water. She is invested with the potency to deliver all living entities. Mother Jahnavi is the reservoir of mercy, for simply by taking bath in her waters, one is relieved of the threefold miseries. One who drinks a palmful of Ganges water will certainly attain an exalted destination at the time of death. I offer hundreds of obeisances at the feet of Ganga. O Mahashaya, I have come here to debate with you. On hearing the Brahmin, Kamalaksha, Veda Panchanana, slightly smiled and in sweet words said, "You are highly experienced and the crest jewel among poets. Your fame reaches to the heavenly planets. My heart is enwrapped with loving sentiments on hearing you speak transcendental glories of Tulsi on the Ganges. But you have some misunderstanding about the truth of Ganga. You said that Ganga is a devotee of Vishnu in liquid form, but actually the Supreme Lord himself has taken the liquid form of Ganga in order to deliver the living entities. The Puranas describe how one day Lord Narayan melted into liquid on hearing the singing of the five-headed Lord Shiva. That divine water became the Ganges River, which is directly transcendental in the form of water. Indeed, simply by remembering her name, one is freed from the cycle of birth and death. The Lord's spiritual potency takes the form of Ganga. By sustaining the Ganga on his head, Lord Shiva has conquered death. Without the mercy of Ganga, no work will be successful. Even Lord Brahma achieved his desired result by worshipping the Ganges. The Shrutis instruct one to consider all water as Ganges water, and they declare that Ganges water is as good as Narayan. Ganges water becomes stagnant only after 1 year. If one dies in the Ganges, he attains Vaikuntha. Krishna is purchased by one who offers some Ganges water with a tulsi leaf. Hearing Advaita Prabhu's conclusions, Shamadas thought, "To hell with my name Digvijaya." He then said, "It is established in the scriptures that the absolute truth has form. O Veda Panchanana, please listen and consider. The Vedas state that the absolute truth is all-pervading and beyond sense perception, without qualities or form, that Supreme Brahman performs no activity, undergoes no change, So how can you assume that the Absolute Truth has form? Anything that has form can be perceived by the senses. Advaita Prabhu replied, Supreme Absolute Truth is never without form. The beginningless Absolute Truth has an eternal form, blissful form, full of knowledge. He possesses all energy, so he's perfectly complete. He's the cause of all causes, beginning with creation. His body is transcendental, his mind is transcendental, his eyes are transcendental, all his qualities are transcendental. He has no relationship with the material qualities. Therefore, the scriptures describe him as nirguna, or free from qualities. There's no doubt that the Absolute Truth is beyond sense perception and can never be known through material senses. Although fruit has form, its juice is formless. Similarly, the Absolute Truth has form, but his effulgence is formless. The Absolute Truth is Krishna, the original, supreme personality of Godhead, and eternally resides in Vrindavan. He's ever youthful, and the embodiment of all loving exchanges. He's controlled by the topmost ecstasy of the internal potency. The devotees of Krishna are completely spiritual, and they can perceive the Lord's form with the eye of devotion tinged with the salve of love. The devotees are the life and soul of the supremely merciful Lord Harih. He therefore bestows on them unalloyed devotional service. Krishna is rarely achieved by the path of dry speculation, but he's easily available by devotional service. Advaitacharya thus spoke many conclusive statements, which the Digvijaya was astonished to hear. Previously, as a student in Kashi, this Shama Das had worshipped Shiva. He satisfied Lord Shiva by practicing austerities for many days. At the close of one night, Shiva came before Shamadas and said, O Brahman, you have performed great austerities. As a result of those austerities, Saraswati will reside on your tongue. You will conquer all scholars other than myself, and your name will be celebrated throughout Bharata as Digvijayi. By the strength of Lord Shiva's benediction, the Brahmin had conquered all provinces until he finally arrived in Shantipur. Now he thought, Advaita Prabhu has defeated me with these conclusive statements. It appears that Shiva's benediction has become ineffective. At that time, there was a voice from the sky saying, O Brahmin, give up this consideration and listen. This Kamalaksha is directly Harihar. That is why he was named Shri Advaita. On hearing this wonderful voice, the Digvijaya looked up in the sky but could not see anyone. He then thought, he is indeed Harihar himself. To argue him be most sinful. Thinking in this way, the Brahmin devotedly said, O Advaita Prabhu, please be merciful to me. Shri Advaita Chandra then mercifully revealed his wonderful spiritual form to Shamadas the Brahmin. On seeing that form, Shamadas exhibited various devotional symptoms like shivering, crying, laughing, and dancing. And then he began chanting the Hare Krishna mantra. Shri Advaita Prabhu was jubilant to see the Brahmin's detachment, and he said, You are most fortunate. The holy name has unlimited potency. Go on chanting without stop. This morning has become most auspicious, and I feel refreshed after hearing the holy name. Overwhelmed with loving ecstasy, Advaita exclaimed, Chant the names of Shri Krishna Chaitanya and Nityananda. After some time he regained his external consciousness. Only Advaita Prabhu can understand himself. He's completely transcendental. His activities, knowledge, fame, and prowess are all spiritual. On realizing Advaita Prabhu's position, that learned Brahmin took initiation from the Lord. After he received the Krishna mantra from Advaita, the Brahmin offered him obeisances and prayers. He said, O Lord, by the power of your mercy, I was easily freed from the bondage of my past fruitive activities. Advaita Prabhu then instructed the Brahmin in the process of worshipping Lord Krishna. Thereafter, when the Brahmin read Srimad Bhagavatam, he merged in ecstatic love. The Lord told him, "Your name is Bhagavatacharya." Shamadas replied, "I take your order on my head." After some days, Advaita Prabhu instructed the Brahmin to return home. And the Brahmin offered obeisances and left. One day, Advaita Prabhu, the incarnation of a devotee, thought, "How will the living entities be delivered? Since the original Supreme Lord has not yet advented, who will bestow devotional service on the living entities?" Just as Advaita was thinking in this way, King Divyasingha arrived there from Lodha. Advaita Prabhu's previous activities had dispelled the king's illusion. By that association, the king had become a Vaishnava, and now he came before Advaita. Advaita got up from his seat to receive the king, who fell at Advaita's feet, saying, "O Lord, please consider me your servant." He then offered humble prayers that revealed the transcendental position of Shri Advaita Prabhu. Advaita Prabhu said, get up, you are Krishna's servant." From that day on, the king's name became Krishnadas. For the next 10 years, Krishnadas studied devotional literatures, and he became convinced that Krishna was the Supreme Personality of Godhead. He gave up chanting the Durga mantra and chanted a Vishnu mantra. Advaita Prabhu said, "Today your body has become spiritual, like Vishnu's own body." Krishnadas said, "You are an ocean of mercy. It's astonishing that you have delivered an atheist like me. Now order me so that I can retire to a lonely place and engage in constant chanting of Krishna's name and thus achieve peace." Saying this, he went to the bank of the Ganges and lived some days in a hut that he built, decorated his residence with many beautiful flowers, and as a result the town there became known as Palavati. By the strength of his devotional service, he received the Lord's mercy and wrote one Sanskrit book about the Lord's childhood pastimes. Towards the end of his life, Krishnadas went to Vrajadam, and with eyes of love, he had darshan of Lord Krishna, and thus achieved perfection. Praying at the lotus feet of Lord Chaitanya and Shri Advaita, always desiring their mercy, I, Ishana Nagara, narrate Shri Advaita Prakasha. Jai. Hare Krishna. Of course, the